Wednesday. You know what that means? Time for the Southern California Writers Association Hump Day Book Tour. I'm your host, Maddie Margarita, here with Diana Pardee on tech. Every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m., we turn our Facebook page over to a new author to talk about their books and their work. And this morning, we're joined by Dr. Pat Spencer. Pat's upcoming novel, Golden Box Tea in the Fry Pan, inspired by her mother's experiences in a Catholic orphanage, will be published by Pennant Pet Publications in 2023. Pat's international thriller Story of a Stolen Girl is available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other booksellers. Book one of her trilogy, Sticks in a Bundle, will be available soon. Her short story, A Healing Place, won the 2019 Oceanside Literary Festival. Other short stories are published in journals such as Literary Yard, Scarlet Leaf Review, and Potato Soup Journal, and featured in California Writers Circle anthology. Pat authored a column in the Press Enterprise newspaper and has served as a columnist and contributing editor to Inland Empire magazine. She's a retired professor and California Community College president. She's enjoying the transition from publishing nonfiction to fiction. Well, we'll see how long that keeps her. She lives in Southern California, is married, and has a son and granddaughter. She speaks to community organizations on human trafficking and writing processes. To relax, she golfs, reads, walks on the beach, hangs out with family and friends, or frequents and haunts book clubs. All right. Well, welcome, Pat.
Thank you, Maddie. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're happy to be here. You have such a distinguished, I'm not going to call it history, I'll say past. You're obviously a woman with a past. But I'm so intrigued by the scope of what you write and the different formats that you use and the different ways you choose to tell stories. So maybe we could start out with the book that's available now, Story of a Stolen Girl. Such an interesting title. Tell us a little bit about that and why that story intrigued you and why you read
Okay. This is it, Story of a Stolen Girl.
Love the cover.
And as Maddie said, available everywhere. My inspiration for writing that book was my desire to do something to raise awareness about human trafficking. When I retired, as you mentioned, I wanted to make the transition from nonfiction to fiction. And I had this story that had been floating around in my head for about 20 years while I was still working, but I didn't have time. And a story where the women are not just the victims, but they're also the heroes. And this story just kept bubbling and bubbling. And in my work, I just started hearing more and more about this horrific crime of human trafficking. Most people think it happens in third world countries. It happens in the United States every second of the day. It's a $10 billion industry in the United States alone. 150 billion worldwide. And I'm not sure how they come up with that number because that's just what they can track. And most of it is a hidden crime that happens in the underbelly of the world. So I wanted to make a difference, but I'm not a police person. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. I don't have millions where I can build a place, a retreat for survivors, but I can write. And so I thought, okay, what I can do is raise awareness on this crime. I can help people to know about it, hopefully talk about it, maybe do something on their own, donate, join a watch, a walk, just any tiny little thing. And since I published this book, I'm not saying I'm to be credited for this, but since I published this book, there is an increase in attention to human trafficking. No, the crime is not under control. I don't believe it will ever be extinct. It will always happen, but more resources, more people, more support for the survivors is out there than I've ever seen before. And so that warms my heart. I mean, it's progress and it's good for the world. Still needs to be a lot more done, but I'm very happy about it. I wanted to write a book where no man swooped in and saved the day. And so this book is about a UCLA college freshman who accepts an invitation to go to a private gambling club in Los Angeles. And her psychology professor invites her and her roommate, and they go. And Darby ends up being drugged by him and sold to an international human trafficking cartel. And then it goes on from there. There's no sex in the book. It's not necessary. What goes on in your mind thinking about the horror of this is worse than anything I could write. And there's no violence unless you count the one escape where this one cute little lady does hit somebody in their important parts with her high heel shoes. But he deserved it. So
Awesome. Great.
yeah, he deserved it. So it's not real. In my mind, that's not really violence. That's just desserts. But there comes a point where the widowed mother of Darby realizes nobody's going to go get her daughter. It's up to her.
So all the women have agency.
Yes. Even Grandma Sally.
It sounds like it. So that's such a interesting, important topic. And, I think a lot of people tend to think of mostly women when they think about it, but so many children get trafficked and, kidnapped.
Literally millions.
Yeah. So did you do research when you wrote this book?
Lots of research, lots of reading, lots of online research, which actually was kind of scary because you never know when you're out there plowing around, who's watching. I lived in San Diego County at the time, and there was a webpage called Backdoor that sold children and young girls, very young, pretty much 16 and under, the youngest child being a little girl, 5 months old. And authorities shut it down, and 48 hours it was back up again. That's how difficult it is to control. I also got connected with a couple of support groups, those who help the survivors, those who work with the women who are on the streets, and heard a lot of personal stories, did some interviews, talked to both survivors and some still in the trafficked situation, as well as the people who are trying to help them survive and build a life after being trafficked.
I imagine it took a degree of discipline with all the research that you were doing to separate reality from the story and to clarify things that were important to you that may not have been important, particularly in the story.
Oh, definitely.
Came across and so I imagine that was a hard book to write, but you don't shy away from hard topics. I don't think. I don't get that impression.
No.
So that is currently available, and then you have another book coming out, right? That's due to come out. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Golden Box Tea in the Fry Pan should be the next one out. And it is inspired by my mother's experience as in the 30s as a Catholic Irish orphan. And it, as we all know now, speaking of not shying away, my books don't shy away from hard topics. And that is the reason that I write them, just to bring up the subject for discussion. Her experiences were, as most children of Irish immigrants, they were very poor. Parents were alcoholic, sort of, Irish and alcoholic are kind of synonymous back then. And the family has many, many trials. The time spent in the orphanage, she and her three youngest brothers were in an orphanage in Pueblo, Colorado, which is has been proven to have a reputation of some ill repute. And there too, I had to make choices on what to include in the book, what not, because it could have gone much darker than it did, but I was afraid no one would want to read it and then my message would be lost.
those are all important. That's an important decision also. I mean, were you tempted to look into the Irish orphanages in Ireland?
It's like on the bucket list. What I did look into more last year is what we learned about the Canadian Catholic orphanages and the Native American orphanages, and the horrendous treatment, the animalistic treatment, the killing, the harming, the beating, really, really horrible, horrible conditions. But like anything else, not all of it was bad. For example, my uncles, the three that were in the orphanage with my mother, the four of them gave credit to two particular nuns that saved them time and time again, psychologically and physically, from beatings or severe punishments, but mostly psychological support that helped them get through and eventually get out of the orphanage and turn into pretty normal people. They all got jobs and lived lives and had their own children. And so.
But, you know, I think sometimes those situations like that are crucibles. They forge, you know, that it can go a couple of ways. And one of them is it produces strong people because you have to develop coping mechanisms and life approaches and things like that make you stronger.
Yes, absolutely.
Invincible going out where, you know, anything other than that is a piece of cake. So I detect some of that steel in you, Pat. So
thank you.
maybe,
Thank you. Thank you.
And then,
but I do want to say, in the end, the book has a satisfying, an ending that you'll cheer for. It doesn't. It has a good ending that is fun and satisfying.
And so, how often do you write? Do you write every day or?
Pretty much every day. I think I go into a bit of withdrawal if I don't get to write at least for an hour. I write a little in the morning, and then I write after lunch, and then watch TV for a little while, and then I write a little more before I go to bed. So I'm a slow writer, though. I'm very slow. I'm probably a little neurotically meticulous when I write, and it creates a very slow process. I'm not, you know, some people, I mean, I'm just in awe. 3 months later, they've got a book. I'm still on page 5. I
call you're like me. I'm a stewer, not a spewer. That's what I like to tell people.
That's good. I like that.
Yes, I stew over every word and reorganize it and do the same thing. So I totally understand that writing process.
Yes.
So why do you write? I mean, what does that writing do for you? What purpose does it serve?
It was just a lifelong dream to always be a writer. And so it fulfills that. When I started writing in 2nd grade, you know, my teacher posted my Columbus report on the bulletin board for Parents' Day and bragged on it. And I mean, I was hooked.
You were off.
Yeah, I was an author. And then in high school, my counselor, you know, the day when they pull you in and tell you you have the inclination to be a train engineer or a doctor or whatever. Yes. Then I said, I want to be a writer. And she said, well, the average writer makes $7,000 a year. And I thought, oh my gosh, I mean, I can't have a family and support myself and buy all the shoes and things I like. And so, so I thought, okay, what's your second choice? And I went into education, and that was perfect because I could write about what I was doing, my work, and the nonfiction form, and also work with young people, which I really enjoy. And so it was perfect. And so then when I retired, I thought, okay, I want to write fiction, but I still want it to have purpose. I want to have a message, a theme. I guess it's the educator in me. I still want to educate. And that feeds my soul. Besides just the joy of finally getting to be a fiction author, meet that goal. It's just the things I write about, the things I learn, the people that I meet. It just feeds my soul. It makes me feel good about what I'm doing and about me. It makes me happy. Just even when I'm writing about something tough,
that's my question. My final question to you is, what advice do you have for people who, like you, would like to write with a message, that don't just have this great plot running around in their head, but that they want to write with a message? What advice would you give them based on your experience?
stay true to your message. Be careful who you take feedback from, because chances are, like what I write, there are many people who don't want to hear the message, but it needs to be heard. So don't be dissuaded. Do not log on to Google and type in what books sell the most, because Hallmark romances are going to pop up. But if you want to write with an important theme, with a message that's in your heart, that's really important, then it's probably not going to be a Hallmark romance. It's probably going to be something else that some people don't want to read. I have very good friends who said, no, I won't read that. I don't want to read about human trafficking. I don't want to know. We're still friends, but if you write about something hard, then there will be people who will just hear about it and go, no, I want to read an adventure book. I want to read a Western book. I want to read something else. And that's okay. That's why there's, I don't know how many genres. There must be 100 at least. And all the little subcategories. There's something for everyone, but not everyone wants to read a book with a hard theme. But if that's what you want to write, I say stay true to your heart.
Right. And keep your expectations real, and know that book is not going to be for everybody. So don't be disappointed if it just gets to the people that it needs to get to.
Yes. Yeah. Just
right.
take that inner joy in what you've done and stick with it. Writing is most often, except in the deepest part of the editing stage, writing is fun. And so just stick with your heart.
Great. Well, I think that's great advice. And where can people find your books? I know we mentioned briefly in the beginning, but where can people find Story of a Stolen Girl?
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Google Play.
Okay.
Just about anywhere where you would order a book. It's available.
Is there any other work out there that of yours that they can get a hold of? Or
on my on Amazon, there is the story that won the literary award. It is in digital form only, and there is my textbook is there. I doubt anybody wants to buy that. It's kind of dying. That was published in '96. It's kind of like dead, but it has a real pretty cover. Or on my website, there's links to the short stories that I've had published, so they could go there.
Great. Well, thank you very much for being here. It was great to talk to you.
Thank you, Maddie.
Great to have our perspective broadened and outside of ourselves. And it's always good to become less parochial and, be aware of what's happening around you. So we appreciate that. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Maddie.
And thank you, everybody, for listening and being with us this morning. If you'd like to share this interview with Pat, you can share it on Facebook or go to SCWA Writers Online, our YouTube channel, and you can find Pat's interview as well as 100 others. So yes, that should keep you busy. That's a rabbit hole. It's worth going down. So I encourage you to do that. And if you can support Pat in her work, that's wonderful. If you could buy her books, somebody loans it to you, if you could leave a review. Reviews are welcome also. There are lots of different ways you can support authors. So we appreciate you supporting our authors. So until next week, have a great week. And this has been the Southern California Writers Association Hump Day Book Tour. And I am Maddie Margarita. Take care.